Hi, I'm Ronald Pruitt, president and founder of For a Good Cause. We are a effective and affordable fundraising platform for small to mid-sized nonprofits. I'm here today with one of our clients, Mike Darrow, the executive director of Feeding the Carolinas, and we're going to talk a little bit about a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign that they've got going on and have done in the past, and hopefully we'll get some insights that other nonprofits can learn from if they are kind of planning a similar campaign for themselves. Mike, hi. Thanks for doing this morning and giving me a little bit of your time. I'd love to just start off by learning a little bit about Feeding the Carolinas. When you hear that name, you probably are thinking food bank, but you guys are a little different in that category. Can you tell me a little bit about the organization and what you guys do?
Sure, and good morning. Appreciate you inviting me to have a chat here. Yeah, Feeding the Carolinas, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're a state association of the Feeding America food banks that are in North and South Carolina. And so there are 10 of those. There are 200 Feeding America food banks across the country. 10 of those are in North and South Carolina. And so we are a member organization. They are my members, each of their CEOs are on my board as a permanent board, if you will. And so our job is to raise awareness and advocate for food insecurity and all the issues surrounding that, to raise resources, both financially and things like National Guard during a pandemic, and other resources like that, and then disaster relief and support to help. I kind of see our role as like an air traffic controller, where in the past, during a hurricane, when someone from across the country is sending in, let's say, 10 truckloads of water, where do you want it? And so help to coordinate that and work with the emergency management centers at each state. So those are kind of the three primary roles that we do in support.
Wonderful. Yeah, you guys are kind of like you guys are almost like FEMA, stepping in and helping coordinate and get these resources to these food banks that needed. That's wonderful. Tell us about this campaign. I believe it's called the Legal Feeding Frenzy.
Yeah.
Tell a little bit about this campaign, how it got started.
Sure thing. And so just to give you a little background, I started in September of 2018. Actually, Hurricane Florence and I showed up the same week. And so we dove right into disaster support and all. And so the legal feeding frenzy had been around before I came on and all. But basically, the North Carolina event, the Attorney General's office has always been a big supporter of food banks. And so they would rally the legal profession across the state, law firms and judges and just others, the law schools even. And so they would do a month of like a competition, basically, and see who could raise the most money, who could donate the most pounds of food, who could volunteer the most hours in this month. And they would categorize the firms by, here's a small firm, large firm, law schools, public, or government, those kind of things. And so the Attorney General would hold an event in the spring after the feeding frenzy and actually give awards to different people. And it was, lawyers like to be competitive. And so it's always been a pretty good event. Yeah, you can imagine that. And so in the past, it was hosted by, in terms of the donations and the giving and all, one of the food banks would take that on, and they'd kind of take turns. The bigger food banks who had some online fundraising systems and all, they would take it on. And so that was a little bit challenging because folks were giving to a food bank and they could designate their donation to a specific food bank. So they were raising money for, let's say, Second Harvest of Metrolina in Charlotte, or Food Bank of the Albemarle in Elizabeth City. But the fundraising platform that was being used was for a particular food bank. And so it got a little confusing sometimes. And so it put a lot of work on that particular food bank. And so when Metrolina, for example, hosted it, they were using their systems and all, but they had to then sort it out, figure out which food bank got what, track it all, send out checks, do all those kind of things. And so when I came on board, I quickly realized that really should be a Feeding the Carolinas function, but we didn't have really we didn't have an online fundraising platform at all, really. We were just kind of doing, the typical kind of free stuff and all that. And so we didn't have, and Florence quickly identified, that we had people that wanted to donate and all. And so, yeah, that's kind of how the program worked. And so after the first year of going through that, I said, next year Feeding the Carolinas is going to host it. And so I reached out to my members and said, okay, what online fundraising platforms are you using? And Interfaith Food Shuttle, one of my members in Raleigh, uses For a Good Cause. And they were singing the praises of it. So this is perfect. Because the biggest thing that we do is these are teams that are competing. And so they need to have their own fundraising pages. Mm-hmm. And not only the law firm itself, but if they have locations across the state, they wanted to have team fundraising pages for each site that then rolled up to the total firm, which then could be tracked. And so you could track it down to the site level and the firm level and have it all tied together seamlessly. Have the thermometer or the ticker showing where you could see who's in the lead and how we're heading toward goal. And you could dive into particular teams, all that stuff. And so we had a pretty, aggressive list of what we wanted. And then, when we looked at For a Good Cause, it was a perfect fit. And so what happened was we launched the feeding frenzy for 2020 with our new fundraising platform, using For a Good Cause. I think we have, I think then we had like 70 fundraising pages all built into there, from site to firm to whatever. So this was in March. We do it in March. So March of 2020, we launch our legal feeding frenzy.
Right during a pandemic.
Yes. And so our goal was 50,000, which was aggressive. In the middle of March, we all know what happened. The pandemic broke, things start shutting down. We're in the middle of this fundraising event. That's a pretty big deal for us. And we push all the money out to the food banks. We don't keep any. It's for the food banks. So that broke in the middle. And we ended up raising 150,000. It tripled, and the law firms just really got excited. They couldn't donate food so much anymore, and they couldn't volunteer. But they volunteered early in the month, but that quickly shut down. So it was about giving, and because we had that platform, and we had For a Good Cause in the fundraising pages and all that, it was seamless. I mean, we went to totally virtual instantly because we kind of already were. But it was totally seamless. And so I could keep up with it in terms of reporting and all. It made life a lot easier on the tail end when it was all said and done, because we could run reports, we could export the data, the raw data, and sort it out, give the food banks the donor information for those donors who indicated they wanted to support Interfaith Food Shuttle or whoever. So they had that information, but also then we could track, sort it out, cut checks, or actually electronically, ACH. So we were quickly, the end of March when I can't even talk. When March ended, we could quickly download that data, sort it by food bank, and get it to them during a pandemic when we had to quickly pivot and start purchasing food.
Yeah,
getting donated food. And so it was really important for me to get the money out to the food banks as quickly as possible. And we were able to do that. And so, it was an interesting experience. And so we're in the middle of it right now because it's, March in 2021. And so we set our goal of 150,000. Last I looked this morning, I think we're at 113,000. I think we'll beat the goal because I think some of them are holding back.
Right. They want to get that last minute push. Right. I'm curious about the competition factor, because you mentioned that the Attorney General kind of got this started and it really kind of had that competition factor. What are you hearing from the law firms and the people that are participating in this campaign? How bad do they want to beat each other, and how is that driving up the fundraising for you guys?
Oh, it's pretty funny because if we're not getting you can go online and see at any time, who's giving what. And it's funny because you can see because we'll do some social media and we'll put out there. We do on Fridays, we do bonus point Fridays because they get points. They get points for dollars, they get points for pounds, and then we kind of add all that up. And so we'll have like a bonus on Friday. If you post a little video, then we'll give you 2,000 points or whatever. And so you can see when like a large firm does something, and Feeding the Carolinas will go on social media and say, hey, look at what, Morningstar Law is doing. All of a sudden, you can see online some of the other firms, and the fundraising kind of starts ticking up a little quicker. And so it's really fun to kind of watch that, because you can see. And the cool thing about these pages too is you can post video. And so we've got a video of Attorney General Josh Stein, on our main page, because you have a landing page. And so we've got that video there that explains the whole thing. And then you can drill into the firm pages and down to the team pages. And it's pretty seamless. But having that landing page is a big deal, because it saved us from. We've got a separate website that has got all the rules, because you got to have rules with attorneys. And so we have a place for that, but we just direct them right to the landing page, that explains it. And so, it's fun to watch the competition. It's for a good cause too. And so it's just fun, and they really get into it.
Yeah. I like that how you're using it, not just to kind of I know there's awards at the end and that type of stuff, but it's not just about the fundraising. You're also rewarding them for sharing, for doing social media posting and spreading the word about that. I absolutely love that. I think is that in itself brings in donors who may not be right within that legal community to give to the campaign as well. And right. I'm gonna share my screen, Mike, while we're chatting, because you keep talking about this landing page, and I want to kind of show that briefly. There's that video, the Attorney General that you're talking about, and then you've got all these individual pages with everybody, and there's that leaderboard to show off the teams that are doing fundraise, individuals that are doing it under the teams, and all that data and tracking and all that. Absolutely. So all that's there that you're talking about. So,
and the other thing we do too, I want to mention is the legal firms, the law firms, whatever, they don't create their fundraising page. They could. It's really easy. But what we do is we have them register. Okay. They go on our website and they register for the competition. And from that, then I create the fundraising page. Excuse me. And I literally can do it in like 2 minutes.
It creates a little bit of a hand holding for them. Yes. Here it is for you. Just go ahead and start sharing and start fundraising. So
and then we can make them. We kind of name them consistently, and plus, then it gives me a touch point back and say, "Hey, great, glad you're registering. This is fantastic. Let's talk about your goal. I've created your page already. Here it is. Now go share that link." And so it's a touch point. It's a marketing piece for us. They could do it themselves, and we give them a login so they can go in and they can change. I do, kind of a rough cut or whatever. They can go in and change the content. They can change the pictures. And it's real easy. A lot of them just depend on us to do it. And we crank them out. Like I said, there's like 70 of them in a couple hours. I can get them done. They're just so easy.
Right. What's some of the other communications that you guys are doing to get the word out about this campaign? Either straight from your end, or that you're kind of enabling the fundraisers to do on your behalf? How are you guys getting the word out to the broader community?
Yeah, the Attorney General's office will do some. The North Carolina Bar Association and the Bar Foundation, and there's a young lawyers division too. And so there are co-chairs of the Legal Feeding Frenzy that are attorneys, and so they do a lot of the on the groundwork. They're communicating on our behalf. They're sending emails out to the teams. They're promoting the competitions each week, and so it's important that with something this large, when you're doing it with a lot of different folks, is to have co-chairs that are kind of out of that community, because then you got peer-to-peer going on. And so that's something that, the Bar Association, Attorney General's office, they're behind it, and the Young Lawyers group as well. And so they host it every year. And so they'll hand it off to another co-chair year to year, or they may hang on for a little while. Sometimes they don't want to let go because it's so much fun. So we have that. We have, of course, the social media. We have the website. But a lot of it's peer-to-peer, and they're kind of doing it for us. And so I'm not, we're Feeding the Carolinas is a 2-person shop. Okay, we're
Wow.
virtual, as you can tell. This is the international headquarters behind me of Carolinas. And so there's myself, and then there's Cindy Stapleton is our farm to food bank director who sources produce. She's out. She's virtual too. And so we don't have admin. We don't have, offices. We don't need it.
Hmm.
So we need to leverage, when we run these big campaigns like this, we need to leverage that, let the donors own it. And so we're able to do that. With the technology, and then with having the co-chairs that can do that. That's very important, I think, is you want donors to feel like they own the events. It's really their event. We just benefit
Right.
from it.
Right. These law firms, you want them to empower them that this is your event. This is you're doing this. You want them to feel great about what they're doing. Um, it sounds like it's something that's just kind of grown organically, and then you've been able to use the technology to make it where a two-person shop can actually go
Right.
out and raise six figures for the greater community there in the two Carolinas.
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't do it without, if we tried to manage this through, spreadsheets or whatever, it would be a nightmare. And
Yeah.
so, and it just they love when we went to the For a Good Cause platform. I mean, the law firms just raved over it. They thought it was so cool, and the look is good. They're all because we use our logo, our color specs, and all.
Hmm.
You can, when you create the landing page and the fundraising pages, you can identify what colors you want to use, our logo, and so it's our colors. It's our adopted colors of our logo. It looks just like it's seamless, to our website and all, and then it look really good. And you can put pictures. We got pictures of lines of cars and all the stuff that we're doing. National Guard handing out food, and
Hmm.
it's all there. And so they love the simplicity of it. That they could just send, here's this one link, and here's talking about their team, and they even put their own logos on some of their. You saw that for was this Morton Van Allen? There's another Brooks Pierce, that's their logo.
Hmm.
They could customize as they will, or if they didn't want to do a whole bunch, they could keep it clean, and so they could do whatever they want. And so it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Anything that you've learned from 2020 to 2021, have you applied any lessons for this year to, you've increased your goal? How have you, probably based on last year, but what have you learned? Anything that you've learned year to year here to hopefully try and make 2021
Mhm.
more successful than even last
Yeah,
year?
yeah. One thing we did this year differently is we had them kind of pre-register. We had them go ahead and register end of February. We actually gave bonus. We had a registration day, and
Hmm.
on February 26th, I believe it was. We said, okay, on this day, if you register, we're going to give you 5,000 bonus points, and we have a goal for this day. Let's go ahead and get this thing going. Um, Even though it technically doesn't start till March, let's see what you can raise today. Kind of a day of a pre-launch day, if you will. And so we got
Right.
all the registrations in. It was on a Friday, so that gave me the weekend to have their pages set up, which I didn't need that much time at all. They were done Friday, I think, but we could have them all ready. So March 1st, it was go time. Now we had some that that didn't pre-register, and so as they came in March 1st, 2nd, 3rd, they would email me register. I'd turn it around in like 15 minutes because I was deliberately blocking my time to watch for those so we could do them quickly. And
Hmm.
people were like, "Oh, I forgot. I didn't register. Can I get in?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, you can get in."
Yeah.
And so, doing that pre-registration thing was really cool, and kind of kick-started us a little bit.
Right.
And so learning to have it all set up, as much as we can ahead of time. It's easy, but it's just cleaner if you could do it a little ahead. And then we started talking about it a little bit earlier. Of course, this year was very much focused on the virtual piece because that's what we love, having them in the food banks working, sorting food
Hmm.
and all that, and that's cool. And we did some of that. There's um, and somewhere, either I can't remember if it's on the fundraising page or our website, we've got pictures of Attorney General Stein, masked up and all that with his team out there working. And we had yesterday, I think the Wake School of Law students were volunteering at Second Harvest Northwest NC in Winston. So we got some pictures of that. And so we can still take volunteers. We just have
Hmm.
to social distance them. We've lost our older volunteers, of course, because they were higher risk. And so as they get vaccinated, we're hoping we'll get them back. Um, but that was a big focus in the past, was, kind of that physical, make it a social kind of thing. And so we had to get creative on how can we still have that feel. And that's why we did that launch day. That's why we're doing these bonus Fridays of, post a video telling why you do this. I think this Friday it's get 21 donors and we'll give you 2,100 points or so. They're creating it. They're coming up with all these ideas. And so they're really,
Right.
just really, because they were asking me what I want. I was like, I don't know. You guys figure it out. And so they came up with all kinds of cool things. And so we were concerned on keeping that social piece kind of going. And so we're able to, you pivot like everyone else has. We do virtual. The awards thing will probably be a Zoom thing, I imagine. But because that was a big deal too, coming together, and the Attorney General hosted it. It was just a little reception kind of thing, and you got your award, and it was and so. But you know what, you just pivot and you refocus. There are things about a pandemic that, this sounds weird, but have been a blessing, and that one in particular is everyone knows about food insecurity. And everyone knows about Feeding the Carolinas. And so we've gotten a lot of exposure. And then to be able to leverage that with the tools and the technology to accept that. I mean, our online giving is just beyond legal feeding frenzy, is very strong. And because it's easy to do so. And plus we've also, the exposure and all that too. And so, our need is great. Our support has been great. And we are burning through it as fast as we get it, because we're still buying food.
It's
a long-term play. I mean,
there's a huge need out there, and you guys are doing some amazing work. And this campaign sounds amazing. I mean, it sounds like that you are kind of covering a lot of the things that we typically tell nonprofits about peer-to-peer fundraising, really gamifying the campaign, turning it sort of into that gaming competition where people can compete against each other and to get those totals up, taking care of your partners and the folks that are really out there that are going to spread the word for you, that are influencers like the Attorney General, and then doing things like getting started early and holding the hands of the fundraisers so that you make it just absolutely as easy as possible for them. So kudos to you guys and the good work that you're doing. For the folks that are going to be watching this and listening and are interested in Feeding the Carolinas and supporting the good work that you do, where can they find out about you guys?
Well, our website is feedingthecarolinas.org. You can, of course, there's donation button right on the front page. You can also, if you're interested, if you're in North or South Carolina and want to support a food bank or to volunteer, there's a Find a Food Bank button. And so when you go there, you can put in your county, and it tells you which of our member food banks support that county. And so every county in North and South Carolina is supported by one of our food banks. Within that network, just to give you some clarification, there's thousands of what we call partner agencies. And those are like the church pantries and community centers that are in your local community that a lot of people think of when you say food bank. I call them kind of the small F, small B food banks. They're the local food pantries, where we're like the big F, big B food banks. Distribution centers traditionally, but during a pandemic, definitely direct distribution. And so you can go there and figure out which food bank supports your county. And then right there is the food bank's information. And there's 3 buttons. There's volunteer, there's donate, and there's find food, where you could drill down and see at your local county. So there's a lot of resources there, a lot of information about us. We push money out, to the food banks is what we do. And so we encourage people to go direct to our member food banks. They can certainly give through us, and then we disperse it out. It's what we do.
Wonderful. You guys are doing some amazing work. Mike, thanks for taking the time today. And I hope some other nonprofits thinking about peer-to-peer fundraising get some lessons from the success that you guys have. So thanks again for doing this. And I encourage anybody out there to go support you guys and the work that you're doing. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. And if anyone needs, advice on how to do these, just reach out. I'd be glad to give, our take on it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot.